You're listening to the Black to Business Podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. We chat with vetted Black entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and business owners as they provide tips and resources to help take your business to the next level. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall. Welcome back to the Black to Business Podcast. Today we have a super special episode for you. We're recapping and sharing the live recording of our recent Black Men Who Lead NYC event that took place this past Saturday at the Spot NYC in partnership with their Black Creators and Culture Fest. So if you don't know, every year during the month of June, we highlight Black men who are leading in business and the community. By each week on the podcast, we feature them. And also on our website, blackmenwholead.com, we list 30 Black men who are leading in business and community. And then we also host an event which we just brought back this year entitled Black Men Who Lead. It's a panel. So that's what took place this past weekend. Now, let me just say the atmosphere was electric. It was literally everything. Our esteemed panelists and moderator brought their unique insights and experiences, shedding light on what it truly means to be a Black man leading in business and community. Our panelists included the incredible Arron Muller, CEO and founder of Modify Wellness, Inc., a true advocate for mental health and reducing stigma in our communities. Arron discussed the importance of destigmatizing therapy for Black men and fostering a culture of well-being in our communities. We were also honored to have Jeremiah Brown, former NFL athlete, TEDx speaker, and renowned leadership development coach, sharing his wisdom. He shared his remarkable journey and provided invaluable insights on navigating challenges, finding purpose, and empowering others to reach their full potential. And last but certainly not least, we had the accomplished Brandon Madden as our moderator. Brandon is an accountant, finance professor, and an entrepreneur who brought his Wall Street expertise to the discussion. Now, throughout the live event, our panelists delved into powerful topics, emphasizing the power of brotherhood and collaboration over competition. They shared the importance of having difficult conversations with spouses or partners when making major lifestyle changes due to setbacks. It was a moment of authenticity and vulnerability as they spoke about learning to lean on their loved ones during challenging times. I am so proud of this event. It was such a success. Now, I do want to mention that this is a live recording, so please bear with us as the audio quality might be a bit spotty in the beginning. However, rest assured that we eventually do get a microphone. So without further ado, let's dive into the episode.
Arron Muller. Arron Muller is the CEO and founder of Modify Wellness, Incorporated, a nonprofit providing mental health and programming and education in New York City. Arron is also an adjunct professor at Adelphi University School of Social Work. Shout out to professors. All right. Arron Muller provides individual and couples counseling using an eclectic approach. Arron conducts stress and anxiety training for nursing schools, facilitates workshops at churches and colleges. Arron holds a Master of Social Work degree from Adelphi University. He was also selected as the expert consultant for the Roots.com topic on Black love. Working in a predominantly female industry, he realized the absence of Black males in the field, which led him to develop a network of Black male therapists from across the country, whose membership is at 800 members. Whew. He utilizes social media platforms such as Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter to provide mental illness information and promote awareness to reduce the stigma. Arron was highlighted as one of the 15 Black male therapists you should know in the Huffington Post in 2017. Also featured in Black Enterprise as Black Enterprise Modern Man 100 Men of Distinction. Arron has been a contributor to The Griot, Oprah Daily, News 12, Hot 97, LA Times, BuzzFeed, The Doctors, ABC News, Cosmopolitan, and New York One. He was also featured on VH1's Black Ink Crew as the resident therapist. Arron trademarked Black Kings Need Therapy 2 in 2021 to normalize Black men going to therapy. He also facilitates New York City Brothers Thrive a conversation about mental health developed by former First Lady Charlene McCray of New York City to provide a forum for black men to have conversations about mental health, which birthed Great King, the ICE Black Men's Mental Health Conference started. It is the first conference of its kind on Long Island, with all the black men therapists, panelists, and facilitators of discussion specifically about black men's mental health, research, and interventions. Arron serves as the co-organizer of the groundbreaking conference. Arron's mission is to change the stigma associated with mental health and therapy in the African American community by providing information, educating, and providing low-cost services. Round of applause, please. Woo! All right. Jeremiah Brown, born and raised in Fort Greene, Brooklyn, hometown hero. Jeremiah Brown is a true force of inspiration and leadership. From his days as an NFL athlete to his current roles as a sought-after speaker, author, and leadership coach, Jeremiah has dedicated himself to making a profound impact on the lives of others. With a remarkable agility to ignite a sense of purpose and resilience, he guides individuals and teams towards reaching their full potential and cultivating positive team cultures. Jeremiah seamlessly connects with all walks of life, drawing from his wealth of experience as a former athlete, director of athletics, and school leader of culture and leadership development. Round of applause, please. Welcome. All right, you guys ready to dive in? Let's go. All right. Woo, Jeremiah, you're up first. So, you've had a remarkable journey from being an NFL athlete to now being a leadership development coach and keynote speaker. Tell us what that transition was like and how you managed that, going from professional sports to a new career path. And how did that shape your expertise in leadership development?
Loaded question for sure. Please bear with me. I talk low, so I know my wife is going to hold me accountable, making sure I speak up. Shout out to my wife in front. But it really takes me back to this word transition that I speak a ton about. And I feel like it's something that I know for a fact we all go through in our lives in terms of the word transition. If it's matriculating from grade school to college, from college to the real world. And for me, in 2012, when the doctor told me I could no longer play the game I attached my entire identity to, of football, I found myself extremely lost, depressed, even having suicidal ideations. And it was in that transition that I had to really figure out who Jeremiah Brown was. So a ton of the work that I do today in helping people live in their purpose is because I was someone who had a ton of confidence on the football field, had all of these transferable skills from the sport of football that I didn't know how to use in the real world. I didn't know how to use these skills and attributes in a completely new arena, what have you. And stemming from my experience of being a professional athlete, then transitioning into being an educator, literally making $28,000 every single Tuesday as a professional athlete to making $29,000 annually as a paraprofessional, right? So that was extremely difficult for me to do. But what was most difficult was looking in the eyes of my people who've been championing me since I was young, telling me that I was their hero, telling me that I was this person who inspired them to be great. And I didn't necessarily see that in myself, and a huge part of what saved my life, to be honest with you, was education, was being in an environment that was inclusive to helping me discover who Jeremiah Brown is. And I found that space in education, being starting off as a paraprofessional and literally working up the ranks into becoming a school leader, being a part of that culture, being a part of being at the table and being responsible for creating an inclusive space that people enjoy being a part of is ultimately what saved my life. And that's what really positioned me to transition into a full-time entrepreneur where I no longer work in education as a school leader, but I still do work in education, but more so as a consultant, as a coach, and helping industry leaders, if it's from corporate, if it's from K through 12, higher education, and creating that holistic experience for, you know, their most important asset, which is their people, you know. So hopefully that answered, you know, the complexity of that question, but just my experience in navigating through the nuances of each level of my life that I'm currently going through. Right? So I can be very honest and say, right now, I'm going through one of the toughest transitions in going from being a professional athlete, transitioning to not knowing who I was, to being a school educator for about 11 years, getting paid twice a month, 6-figure salary, to now being a full-time entrepreneur, and I'm more accessible to my family, but navigating the nuances of that check-in is not hitting on the 1st and 15th anymore. And everything that I was afraid would happen in entrepreneurship has happened. In terms of betting on yourself, in terms of not having it all figured out. Really, honestly, trying to figure out how you're going to pay this next bill. And through the grace of God, I've been extremely blessed to have a successful year one financially. But it's been a challenge, you know, and the transition is something that I've dedicated my life to, is helping myself and others navigate with purpose.
Thank you. Arron, so as a mental health advocate, you have been instrumental in breaking down the stigma around therapy for Black men. What are some common misconceptions you've encountered, and also how do you challenge them to promote a culture of well-being in our community?
Well, you know, common, and I would go books to what a common misconception is, you know, we don't need therapy. Black men, you know, we kind of keep things inside. You're soft if you have a, you know, if you're feeling anxious. We don't use the word anxious as men, you know what I'm saying? So these terms that, you know, that's foreign to us, right? There's only like one emotion we have, is either happy or angry. It is understanding that we're multifaceted, we have a lot of different emotions that we feel as men. And normalizing that, right? We use the word normalize a lot, but it's really that men are human as well. We have different emotions, and it's not, there's this kind of genderization of emotions, right? There's not one emotion that's restricted for women and one for men. Like, we all have feelings and emotions, but when we kind of keep them closed, we lash out, right? That's because we feel tight, right? Who wants to feel tight? We want to be able to express ourselves, be who we are, right? And allow, you know, it's okay for you to define what masculinity is, right? No one else to define it for you. So having these conversations such as this, and we see how mental health has changed, right? Just, you know, athletes are talking about it, rappers, entertainers. So we see now the people that we enjoy the most, that we love, that we listen to, are talking about, like, hey, I deal with that too. So it opens up that kind of, that the veil, kind of opens the veil to, wow, I can feel that too and it'd be okay.
Thank you. So Jeremiah, right? Obviously the forced retirement from the NFL due to the life-threatening brain injury. Like, how did you regain your confidence, and what was that immediate moment like, and how did you know, maintain your confidence to actually get back out there and make a transition and figure out what to do next? What was that process like?
That's an excellent question, you know, and for me, the word confidence is it's very subjective, and I had to realize this, that what I mean by subjective is you can be confident on the football field, but not confident with the reflection in the mirror. You can be very confident in your relationship with your friends, but maybe not necessarily as confident in your relationship with your significant other. So confidence is this thing where I strongly believe that it's a muscle that we must be intentional on developing. And in order to do that, it takes a great deal of understanding that in each environment, it's not necessarily code switching, but it's really understanding that every environment, it requires you to show up in your authentic self, but it also requires you to self-assess and say, organizationally, in business, I am not that good. But on the football field, there was a level of organization that was unmatched, and as a result, I was able to play in the NFL and play at the highest level and be in that room and at that table. So for me, being in a completely new arena of not being on the football field, not tackling, not using my physical gifts, I grew up in an environment where that was the only thing I knew was possible, was using my physical gifts my mother wasn't necessarily an athlete. My father wasn't necessarily that much of an athlete. So it wasn't like I grew up in a household where they gave me the confidence that, okay, you're going to be this professional athlete. But what they did was they showed me what hard work really was. Right? So shout out to my parents because they showed me what hard work was. But not necessarily from a standpoint of Jeremiah, you have so many gifts and skills outside of running extremely fast, being extremely strong. And they didn't necessarily have the capacity or maybe experience to help me navigate and build that muscle of confidence. So being in this real world, of course I have confidence. I played against the Tom Brady's of the world. I'm on the field. I'm doing all of these things. But now I'm just like, man, I don't even know who Jeremiah Brown is. So from a mental health standpoint, there were no really spaces that I could go to really feel like people see me for what I'm going through. And as a result, I didn't believe in myself for many years. You know, and I know we'll talk about this a little later, but even in the decision on becoming an entrepreneur, this thing of imposter syndrome and me not believing in the person that's looking back at me in the mirror. So I'll close this question saying confidence is a muscle that we must all be intentional on building, but it takes a great deal of self-assessing ourselves and figuring out what our deficiencies are in the spaces and places that we're in. Because every space or place requires a different level of confidence and competence. And I believe what's helped me increase my confidence as an educator, as a professional, as an entrepreneur, as a father, as a husband, is the clarity on where I'm taking my company, the clarity on where I'm taking my family, and as a result, that clarity has helped develop the muscle of confidence. So it's a journey, and it's definitely something that we must be intentional with.
I think the objective word was clarity, right? And clarity is so important sometimes as an entrepreneur. It's important, obviously, with your mental health, really understanding what you want out of life, what you want out of your business. Obviously, you could be going really fast, but if you're going really fast and you're not going anywhere, it's like, you know, I think J. Cole said, the good news is you came a long way. The bad news is you went the wrong way, right? So you really want to get that clarity. That's first and foremost. So Arron, speaking of clarity, right, mental clarity, as a black man, like what unique challenges have you faced in prioritizing your own well-being? And also, how do you navigate those obstacles?
Well, that's as a therapist, I should have it all together, right? You know, but we look at hairdressers, their hair is not done all the time. Barbers' hair is not done, right? So, right, you know, so that's something that I'm aware of, and it's just a matter of fitting it in, right? I have a lot that I'm doing. You know, I have 2 children, married, full-time job, and I do, you know, I teach at the college. I do a lot, right? And I think I put everything else before my own mental health and kind of just taking time for myself. But like I said, it's at the forefront. So there's moments where I ensure that at least take a moment where I'm not doing anything, right? And stillness is very important.
Yeah.
So I may not have like a whole block of time, but just taking 5 minutes while I'm driving to work and just kind of no music and just practice stillness or listen to a meditation. I've been really, really intentional about doing things like that.
Right.
And realizing that, you know, self-care, we talk a lot about self-care, but self-care is not just bath bombs and massages, but, you know, that's all good. But it's also like how I speak to myself. And I've been practicing more gratitude lately, just thanking God when I find a parking space, or just those little things. I stopped paying attention to the little things because I'm doing all so much and not focus on the flowers and looking like, and actually like cooking. I was like, wow, I never used to cook before. I like cooking. So I'm going to be more intentional about discovering who I am outside of a therapist. And it doesn't have to be these big things. Just really, like, if I'm going to say I'm going to chill, like intentionally chill and not feel guilty about it. You know, like, oh no, I got this to do, because if I'm home, I'm running around doing a whole bunch of stuff. So just being kind to myself and practicing gratitude and eventually I'll fit the gym in there. Because I want to work on the dad bod a little bit. But but most importantly, because there's a lot of people that's working out in the gym that's still not kind to themselves. Thank you. There's a lot of people that's working out in the gym that's still not kind to themselves, right? They have the physique and doing the self-care, but they're not being mindful about the thoughts and the actions that they do. So I'm glad I'm focusing on my thoughts, my actions, my behaviors, practicing gratitude and things like that. So that's where I'm at.
Yes, we finally got a microphone now. Thank you, voice. Thank you, Monique. All right, so this is kind of a general question I'm going to ask to both of you, right? I'm a financial guy. I'm an accountant. Full circle moment. I used to come here on my lunch breaks. I used to work at the JP Morgan office across the street. So I used to go downstairs, eat lunch, go back into the office, right? So full circle moment, right? It's almost about a year now since I've been a full-time entrepreneur. And I think just like what we've been talking about, like confidence, clarity, it seemed like for some reason I couldn't get the corporate thing right. But the minute that I actually sat down and followed the plan that, you know, the visions that God gave me, it's like everything started working, right? And so I haven't looked back since. So I just want to say it's a full circle moment. We got to have confidence. We got to have clarity, right? I think those are the two takeaway points so far. All right, let's dive into some questions and either you can jump in. So, right, as a black man in entrepreneurship, how do you balance the need to achieve success with the responsibility of uplifting and empowering other aspiring black entrepreneurs?
Yeah, that's a good one. You know, shout out to my brother Leckham. You know, I really appreciate you for being here, bro. That's my brother since high school, been with me from literally every phase and transition of my life. I bring Leckham up, and I'm so happy that he's here, is because he adds so much value to the marketplace of entrepreneurs by being a certified project manager. So if you are someone here who needs project management help, he is your guy. And I've had the opportunity to partner with a best friend of mine in getting him to see the value in what he does. So to answer your question, it's just a full circle moment. I think it's extremely important that, you know, you empower other professionals, because like myself, there was a time where I knew God was planting these seeds in me of these visions that were just not normal. It was outside of the box. And I couldn't go to anyone to really talk to it because God didn't give them the vision. Mm-hmm. So for a while I was trying to figure out, like, man, like, why don't my friends get it? Like, why doesn't, you know, the people that I'm closest with get what I'm trying to do? And one day I realized, one of my mentors said, well, God didn't give your friends the vision, he gave it to you, you know, and the clarity, and we spoke about clarity and confidence, the clarity for me came in the doing. And through the trial and error, but in creating that proof of concept, what it did was it now positioned me to attract other people who could help and be a part of what I'm doing. So when I think of my brother Leckham and just other individuals who have so much to offer this world, sometimes I hold myself accountable in realizing that they need what I needed. And that is not someone stroking their ego, you know, because my wife will tell you, like, she'll give it to me straight. Like, that's not good, that looks good, that doesn't look good. And for a while, I didn't understand what was happening, you know, and I always share this story, and I know she's probably tired of hearing it, but I would always, you know, think she was hating. You know, I would think, like, my wife is hating on me, like, she don't get it, like, she not really trying to, like, support me. And she was supporting me in the way that I really needed her to support me. And I thought I needed her to stroke my ego. I thought I needed her to tell me everything looked good, everything was right. So for me, when it comes to my peers and just people that I'm in close proximity of, I'm always holding myself accountable of pouring into them the way people poured into me, by just providing an opportunity, you know, to partner and to work, and then through that partnership, really just getting the clarity on the assignment, you know, ultimately. So I think that it's just extremely important that we, instead of compete, we collaborate. And that's a whole nother thing that I can go into, but I digress.
I look at other races, how they collaborate and work together and form a conglomerate to make it happen. And I'm like, yo, we could do that. You know what I'm saying? So I have black male therapist friends, we have a group chat, and we all own our private practice, and we all pour into each other, right? So whatever, what software you using, like, yo, so what tax tips? Like, I was having an issue with insurance company. I was like, yo, what should I do? Like, being vulnerable to ask these questions, because we all count each other, like, yo, you millionaire, like, we all, you know what I'm saying? Like, nah, you the one with the money. Like, it is all genuine love, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I just love that I have that brotherhood. And there's no competition, you know what I'm saying? It's not like, nah, I ain't gonna share with them. Like, if I win, if I have accolades, it's like, yo, congratulations. We all support each other, right? Because I said there's enough clients for everybody, so there's no need to be hating on the person, but we support each other, provide information, resources, and that's why I curated Black Male Therapists, because we needed resources. I felt isolated being one of few black male therapists here in New York. I don't have that many black male therapist friends. I have like one or two. Majority of my friends are out of the state. So when I created the group, it was just to provide resources and just to build camaraderie with each other, because we all knew each other. You know what I'm saying? So whether, like I said, software you're using, how to deal with taxes, how do you deal with insurance companies, because it's about building and helping each other.
Definitely about camaraderie, as Arron said. It's about building and helping one another, bringing each other up, right? Keeping someone with you, as Jeremiah mentioned, with his buddy from high school. I think, let's dive into a few of the numbers, right? So let's say someone is on board, right, after getting over the stigma of saying, oh, I need therapy, right? How does it work? Because sometimes folks will say, I can't afford it. Sometimes that might be a roadblock. So how does the business model work, and like, how can folks actually afford, insurance or, your services? Right.
So there's a variety of ways. One, just understanding that you contact your insurance company through your provider, right? If you have insurance, and call them to find out if you have mental health coverage. That's the first thing. And then if you do I have a deductible, or do I have any copays? So if most copays range between $0. The most I've seen is $30. So when you see your therapist, or like just when you see a doctor, you will have your services, and then you will just give them the copay. Your insurance will cover the rest, right? If you don't want to use your insurance, you can also ask the therapist, do you do a sliding scale? So a lot of people don't know that. A sliding scale is based off of your income. They will come up with a rate.
I didn't know that.
Yes. So then. And then sometimes you can say, I really can't, or that's great. So, a therapist will work with you, right? And then there's some therapists that just do straight self-pay and have a fixed rate. And some people incorporate that into their monthly budget, right? So they allot for their coffee every morning, and then they allot for their therapy once a month or every 2 weeks. So it's just a variety of ways. And then there's organizations such as Black Men Heal, that offers free therapy sessions. Taraji P. Henson,
I saw that.
She has an organization called the Boris L. Henson Foundation, named after her dad. She also offers free therapy sessions. And I pick her up because I was awarded 2023 Joy Recipient Award, which is, you get about 10 therapists that win an award for the work that you do in the community. So I just received the award for that, so definitely appreciate it. Thank you. So there's organizations that provide free therapy services. So it does cost, because one, the therapist has expenses, right? So we have to keep our lights on. We have bills that we have to pay for office space. We have continuing ed credits we have to pay for. So the therapist does have a price, but I feel like it is accessible. I know some clients that are paying $80 for sessions. Like, some therapists say, listen, I really want especially black people to be seen, and they will lower their rate. So I really hope that is not a deterrent for someone going to get the help that they need. Because there's ways around it.
And Jeremiah, same thing for you. Really, like, what's your business model and how does that work? Or, you know, also if someone's looking to get into, you know, that career as well, like, what's the business model like for them?
Yeah, so oftentimes when I go to career days or just speak and I tell industry leaders, students that I've made more money as a speaker than that as a professional football player in the NFL, the eyes get big and they're like, whoa, like, how's that possible? And I would have never known that. Of course, you make $28 to $1 million a week as a professional athlete, but I didn't know that you could get paid, you know, $50,000 to speak for 15 minutes in front of an audience. I didn't know that that was even a career. I would say the biggest thing in getting in an entrepreneurial space in general is being a part of a community. And for myself, there was a great deal of no confidence, but I had a ton of raw talent as a speaker. I didn't understand that there was an actual business behind speaking until I got into a community of speakers and I found a mentor, I found a coach. I combined that with going to therapy, and you know, that honestly is my business model. You know, is creating a community where I can get advice from, but ultimately in terms of the structure and paying for it and how to charge $50,000, I'm not there yet, but we are definitely on track. I went from speaking for free for many years. I've been speaking for about 8 years now, and for about the first 4 was for free, wherever I could go to just speak. And then I got $500, I got $700, and then I most recently got an engagement for $25,000, and that's for 45 minutes. And the model to get there is adding value, solving problems. Why would an organization bring me in to pay me $25,000 to speak for 45 minutes? Is because of the value that we add on the front end, but also on the back end, and how we support their educators, how we support their students, the problems that we solve with our curriculum, and all of the different nuances of that. But it's really about, you know, just having structure on the front end and the back end of your business to really, you know, leverage. And then there's also financing that goes into it as well, where organizations, they may not have the budget, but then me understanding the business model of it, I can then recommend a finance company and say, hey, my organization can come in, you only have 10,000, my fee is 25,000. This finance company can help finance the rest of it, and you can get paid that way. Now, every engagement isn't 25,000, so let me not even say it in front, but that's essentially what it's going on to.
What it can be.
Yeah, what it can be.
I know Eric Thomas, you guys are, thank you. Yeah, you guys fans of Eric Thomas? So you guys obviously on to Eric Thomas, right? He's always talking about, one, either his wife, or he's talking about, hey, listen, we don't have to do it, we're getting money now, right? And he's throwing these crazy numbers out of there, right? It's like hundreds of $1,000s to do exactly what Jeremiah just said. And speaking for like maybe 15, 30 minutes, right? So, you know, exactly, right. So he's mine as well from a distance though.
Oh yeah, he's personally my coach.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. So, you know, he's changed so many lives, and he also talked about like his mental health journey. So, Arron, like, I want to ask, right? Obviously, as a mental health professional and founder of Modify Wellness Inc., how do you integrate your passion for mental health with your entrepreneurial endeavors? And tell us a little bit more about Modify Wellness.
Yeah, so my entrepreneur spirit started when I was like 9 years old. I have a passion for cars, so I started washing people's cars in the neighborhood. But not only did I wash cars, you could sit and have hors d'oeuvres. I had things for you to eat while you sat and wait in my yard. So, you know, vacuum your car, washed it, dried, all of that. And my mom made flyers for me at her job, and I was handing them out, putting them on people's cars in the neighborhood. I knew that I wanted, one, to make money, and two, you know, incorporate my passion in making money. So that's something I started a really long time ago. My family always laughed about it that, they remember me washing, people's cars in the neighborhood. And I had prices. So if it was a dollar van, I charged more. If it was a regular car, it was a minivan. So, and then, you had little things that you could eat while you wait. So fast forward as I get old, and I come from a family of entrepreneurs. So I've grown, like my cousin, that is kind of, she's I admire her very much. She started, she's a nurse, so she started a review course to help you pass the state exam. And we just celebrated, she had an event, celebrated 15 years in business. So she shifted from bedside, from being a nurse, to, I want to teach future nurses how to pass the review. You know what I'm saying? So from that, I'm like, what can I do? You know what I'm saying? So take being a therapist, what other things can I do besides open private practice? So Modified Wellness was developed because I wanted to have a space where people can learn more about the psychoeducation of therapy. So terms and different type of modalities, different type of therapies, and different diagnoses and things like that. So that's where I go to, and talk about public speaking. For someone that is really shy, it was a lot for me to start doing public speaking. So now I'm actually starting to keynote, which I'm like, is that for me? Because I'm like, I was running away from it, but I got 2 opportunities. So it's like, should I answer this call? And like, I just want to be mindful, like, is this where I'm supposed to go next? So I'm praying about it, but I'm like, maybe that's where I'm going next with this. Well, one thing is pushing out of your comfort zone is one thing that I'm really aware of and encourage in terms of being an entrepreneur. I don't think being safe gets you to success. So I feel there's a level of risk that comes with entrepreneurship, but I like to take calculated risks. So my risks are a little bit more safe. So I'm like with my anxiety. So I'm like, nah. So I'm really thoughtful about the risks that I take. But yeah, doing Modified Wellness was one of the greatest things, because one thing I'm like, I really want to ensure that our people has someone that looks like them, that has the knowledge to be able to give the information, right? Because mental health is we're talking about it a lot, but we have to be mindful about the information that's being disseminated. We see a lot on social media with podcasts and things like that. Once you have a nice flower behind your flower bed, you think you can say whatever, and that's not the case, right? So we want to make sure that we're giving healthy information, right? Not just saying anything that's not come from a place of harm, come from a place of hurt, come from a place of being unhealed, and you're just sharing this, spewing this information, because people, they're going to align with that, right? So if this spirit is not in the right space, they're like, oh, word, you see that person, right? So I'm going to continue in my unhealthy journey, right? So I just want to, that's why Modified Wellness came, just to have a platform to provide, education, and that's where brothers and sisters thrive. I had the first event last month, and it was about relationships, mental health and relationships, because they coincide, right? So if I'm not well and I'm in an unhealthy relationship, how does that affect my relationship? So, yeah, I hope that answers the question.
I like that one. Yeah, definitely.
Relationships and mental health. That's a whole other conversation, man. Woo! Jeremiah, can we talk after the panel so I get the hook up on the ET mentorship? Like, let me know. Let me know how to get in there. I loved Arron's story about washing cars, man, because I grew up in a family that loved cars too. All I ever wanted to do was work at the car wash. My mom wouldn't let me. But I remember, like, you can tell the signs of an entrepreneur when they're like 5 years old, right? They're always out selling something. Either selling candy, right? Washing cars. For me, I started when I was like 5. I won the candy sale in kindergarten, and like that was it from there, right? Then, after that, I started selling those lanyards. You guys remember, like, those different braids? Started selling them for $0.25. Used to buy it wholesale out in Long Island, bring it back to Queens. Then I started selling candy again in middle school. And you guys remember they make you sell candy sometimes? So what I would do is I would sell my box faster than everyone else, and I would go back and get another box from DJs and act like I was still selling school's candy, right? So quick story how I learned. So this is a quick story. It's gonna make sense. So this is how I found out about it. So pretty much like we were selling candy. I was like, you've been selling candy for like 6 months now. Like, what are you doing, right? And so one day I came back to class and my locker was open. They took all my candy, and that's how I found out about taxes, right? So, so then I became a tax accountant. I was like, it's never gonna happen again. I'm gonna pay my fair share. They're not gonna get it. So, all right, that's my quick story. All right, Jeremiah. All right, so your playbook, Lead Like a Champion, focuses on character development and increasing student and student athlete success. Can you elaborate on the key principles and strategies you emphasize to cultivate leadership qualities and empower individuals to reach their full potential?
For me, I strongly believe the why behind why I wrote this book, Lead Like a Champion, is because the misconception in sports and in the real world, as they say, is that the only way you could be successful is by whatever bag you wear, whatever salary, job, position, winning actual championship rings and games. And that's the only way you could be deemed successful or deemed a champion. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to empower the next generation to see more in themselves than the sport that they play. So one, shift their perspective that their sport is not their purpose, but it is a vehicle that can lead towards their purpose. And one of the biggest misconceptions in sports, in the regular student body wanting to be successful if they don't play a sport, just this whole word of success, people losing sight of how important character is. And oftentimes athletes rely so much on their physical talent, on how fast they can run, how high they can jump, how strong they can bench press or squat. And then for the regular student body, you know, what their IQ is, right? Like how high of an SAT score I can get, what's my GPA, you know, what grades, what my degree, what school I go to, and all of these things are so important. But the common thread that I kept seeing, which was the biggest gap, was character. And people getting the scholarship, but losing it. Why? People, you know, going to the university of their dreams and then coming back home. Why? People getting a level of success in their space, but not necessarily being able to navigate the levels of the corporate space. Why? It was because of character. It was because their IQ was extremely high, but their EQ was extremely low. And understanding that developing your IQ as an athlete, as a student, you know, as a professional is extremely important, but I wanted to empower people, not just our youth, but people to understand that when we develop the muscle of our IQ, that gets us in the room. But when we develop the muscle of our EQ, in terms of our emotional intelligence, in terms of our character, how we conduct ourselves, how we interact and communicate, those are things that need to be taught. And the misconception on the back end for educators is we expect our students to show up a certain way. On the back end, as a corporate leader, we expect our employees to show up in a certain way. When we hired them based on their IQ, not realizing that they've never taken the time to develop their EQ. So that's why they're not happy. So this book was really just a tool to really help, starting with the younger generation, to get them to understand, as I build the outer parameters of Jeremiah Brown, I also need to work on the inner parameters of who Jeremiah Brown is. And that is understanding how to communicate with your village, identifying who is in your village. You tell kids all the time, you need to hang out with better people. Kids nowadays need to be taught how to hang out with better people, to discern what's good character versus bad character. These are muscles that have to be developed, and it can no longer be, they'll figure it out. Like, we have to be intentional on teaching them. So to be a champion is to lead with purpose, and to understand that wherever your feet are, it is the bigger picture is much bigger than where you are. And I mean, I can keep going, but me and my wife, we on the same page. She's like, you gotta keep it short. But I'm a speaker, as you can see, so I can just keep going.
Good stuff. Thank you. Love it, right? So Another quick story, and it's going to lead into a question. Coming from, corporate America, Big Four public accounting, right? During tax season, from December to like March, we're working 18-hour days. You go in before the sun sometimes. If you're on a client and you're not in the office, you go in before the sun comes up. You come out, it's like midnight, right? So there's no work-life balance, right? As an entrepreneur, you have all the time in the world, right? You make your schedule. And so the next question really, as family men and entrepreneurs, how do you, set up that work-life balance? What are some strategies for doing that?
I think one thing is that there's no one size fits all when it comes to that. Finding a lot. I was watching this YouTube yesterday about that time is elastic. And right, we may say I don't have time to do something, right? But now let the water heater break, and now you have a flood. Now you have time because you got to get it fixed. But if you would have said, hey, do you have 7 hours to devote to being doing nothing in the house? You're like, nah, I got things to do. But now that water heater is broke, and now you have a flood, it takes you 7 hours to get it repaired and to clean up all of that mess. So this understanding that time is elastic, and that when we say priorities, or I don't have the time, is it you don't have the time, or is it not a priority? So identifying what our priorities are, and if it's family time, I'm big on structure and creating like a schedule so it works for my household in terms of this day, like this family days, that's Friday nights, and we have dedicated time. Of course, it shifts when things arise, but there's definitely like a formula that works for us in terms of, my wife works late some nights. She's a therapist too. She's a psychologist, so she works till late. So then, I'm with the kids, and then some nights I work late. So it's kind of one, transparency and communication, and just finding that structure that works for your family. So when I do counseling, and if time management or some of that is an issue with an entrepreneur, we find ways what will work for your family, identifying what will work for you, and having a conversation with your partner around that, because there's something called entrepreneur blues. I don't know if everybody heard of that.
No, elaborate.
So entrepreneur blues is just the ebbs and flows that come with an entrepreneur. There's times where money's rolling in, and there's times where you don't have a speaking engagement, you don't have a client. Where's the money coming from? So it's literally called entrepreneur blues. And how do you navigate that as a man, right? So you may be the family man. Now you're in the house. You're a little bit angry, a little bit irritated. You're not showing up. You're not being present as you should because of that. So being cognizant and aware of the ebbs and flows that comes with entrepreneurship, and how are you feeding yourself mentally during those low times, right? What have you incorporated in place? What have you set in place to ensure that when you are low, you still have that nest egg, right? What communication do you have with your partner, and make sure that they're well and comfortable also with, this is a low season right now, expressing that. So what are we doing? How can we pull together? You know what I'm saying? Like checking in with each other, making sure that, because they may have to lean on them, or they may have to lean on you certain much. So having that transparency, because even though you're the entrepreneur, your partner's there with you. You know what I'm saying? Right? So they're feeling it. They may have to pick up, step back, depends on. But it's definitely ebbs and flows. So it's complete transparency as an entrepreneur, being a black man when you have your family. And making sure that you're being present. Because, especially when you're a business person, you think about that business 24/7. Right? Even when you're sitting there, I'm rocking back and forth like, wow. Right? I'm thinking, I'm gonna post that next, right? So you're thinking about what you're gonna post, you're thinking about the next speaking engagement, you're thinking about how I'm gonna get 50,000 next month. Right? So now you got 25, so then you get to this thing like, I'm feeling this, let me get 50 now. So now you're working on that. But it's important that you are also present, that turn your brain off and say, this is my downtime. Dedicate downtime so that you can just be present with your family. Because I talk about, like, if you're just grinding, what's the quality of that grinding? Right? So you think you're doing big things, but how really big are you doing? Because you're not rested, you're not present, it's affecting you emotionally, maybe affecting you romantically with your partner. So take a few minutes and relax, right? The business is not going nowhere, and when you come back, you'll be better than ever, rejuvenated, and be able to take the business by storm.
Nice. I like that. Sharma?
That was a master class. Man, that was so good, man. Incredible. You was in my head. I'm like, dang, you judging me. That was so good. Yeah, I mean, honest, there's really not much more to say because I resonated with 100% of, what you mentioned. And for myself, the business isn't going anywhere. That's the headline. And that's where you left off. That's my biggest deficiency as a CEO, as a visionary, is I cannot shut it off. That's why I know it's an assignment. I know it's bigger than me. I know it's what I've been called to do. Because on the low months, I'm still motivated. On the high months, nothing shifts. I'm still motivated. The difficulty that I've had in the balance of it is shutting it off. And one of the things that I've realized, even coming into this, the biggest misconception that people make when becoming or choosing to become an entrepreneur and start their own business is there's a misconception that, well, I left my job and now I have my own business. No. You left your job and now you have another job. You're just in control of how you show up in that job. You are the one who holds yourself accountable. And as an athlete, for many years, I've struggled with time management because as an athlete, everyone tells you where to go, where to be, what time you have X, Y, and Z. So as a professional, as an entrepreneur, I still struggle many times managing, and there's constant overlap. Jonah has karate, I have to be here, but I can only meet with my team in the evening when they're not in work. So then it's just a constant battle of what becomes a priority on that day or in that season. And it is extremely challenging, to shut it off. But one of the things that has helped me with the balance is understanding where I am deficient in as a leader of my company, doing that self-assessing consistently on a weekly, monthly basis and saying, okay, I am terrible at executing the vision. I have the vision, but I'm also trying to make sure I get that $50,000 gig. But there are other avenues of my company that are being neglected. So do I give that more time or do I be present with my family? I'm gonna be present with my family because my priority isn't these things, but they still need to get done. So now hiring a project manager, shout out to my brother-elect, to help me. I'm coming to him. Hey bro, I'm terrible when it comes to executing and setting my team up for success. I need your help. And being vulnerable and being transparent with those deficiencies and building a team of people he is elite when it comes to project management. So being in close proximity of someone who is elite in somewhere where I'm deficient, he now not only makes me better, but he now adds this tremendous value to the work. So where now I can be present with my family because I know that my consultant, my coach, is essentially picking up where I would be anxious about.
I just want to add one thing. That's essential too. Like if you have the ability to outsource, as an entrepreneur, if you have that ability to, like we feel like we have to, especially as a man, right? I do all by myself. I started from the ground up. Nope, I outsourced that, and I outsourced and I'm just leading, right? Or I'm doing this, so I have space to do what I need to do, right? Show up and look good, right? That's what I want to do, right? And just speak, right? But there's people behind the scenes that's making it happen. You know what I'm saying? So being okay with that, we really think that we have to grit and struggle as an entrepreneur, right? And just realizing that there are people that can make content for me. Now, when I make my own content, it's because I want to. But I've outsourced content making. I found different ways to make my job easier, right? Even home life. Like my wife was really big on, I'm from Jamaica, so I don't want nobody coming cleaning my house. She have not touched. I saw her putting something in the laundry today. I was like, wow. Because we have somebody to do the laundry, and being okay with that. So not really understanding that there's some simple things that we can do to ensure wellness so that we can tackle the things that we can't control, such as the ups and downs of owning a business, because that is just gonna come with you. You got to be ready. You feel me? So finding other aspects of your life, not putting yourself down and torturing yourself because you feel like entrepreneurship should look a certain way. You feel me? So just knowing that it's okay to be able to do certain things, and certain things just giving it to somebody else to do. Being okay with that.
Perfect. That was a perfect answer, guys. And I just want to sum things up, right? The operative word is delegation and being okay with that. So any entrepreneurs in the crowd, right? There's really 3 departments in your business, right? So you can have sales, you have marketing, and then you have fulfillment. Depending on your business model, right? Maybe you outsource fulfillment first, or maybe you are the only person that can fulfill in your business, so you have to pretty much delegate sales and marketing first, right? But really, the money is never yours. You make the money and you put it back so you can buy back your time, and that's the operative word. The entire lesson here is you make the money and you put it back into the business so you can have time for the things that money can't buy, which is time with your family, right? So I want to wrap up. What does it mean to you to be a black man in business?
That's a lot. It means everything. It means time, my own time. It means doing something that brings me passion. It means a legacy that I can leave to my children if they want to go into therapy, right? If they like they see what their mom and dad is doing, they want to become therapists too, then we have the practice for them, we have the nonprofit for them if they want to do that. So creating a legacy is important. Demystifying what society say about black men, right? That we don't want to do nothing with ourselves, right? That is willing, and able and want to be productive members of society. So it means it means everything, right? Just having your own, right? And I wouldn't say that I'm a half an entrepreneur because I have a full-time job. So, but I enjoy, having this, because this is my passion, and this is not work, what I do, right? The practice, the speaking engagements, that's not work for me, It's just, I want to do it. I enjoy helping and supporting others. So it's not work at all.
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, it's definitely legacy. Demystifying the black man solely being a technician. That word technician of solely believing that the only way you can add value to society, to your community, to the world is by physical labor, by giving a company 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, using your hands, and not necessarily being in the seat of ownership. Now, I am not the entrepreneur who believes that entrepreneurship is the only way. So for me as an entrepreneur, it is really about educating the next generation and getting them to understand that a 9-to-5 job is okay and there's absolutely nothing wrong with a 9-to-5 job. It is, does your 9-to-5 job fulfill your cup? Does it fill you up? Is it purpose driven, or is it just money? And literally paying it forward and creating structure and somewhat of a blueprint of just leaving breadcrumbs on how they can identify with who they are, but more importantly, getting them to know that, especially in this day and age of influencing and, social media, and it's almost made our young black men and women believe that their physical sphere of what cars they drive, the lifestyle that they have to live is the only thing that means success. So really demystifying that and ultimately getting our youth, primarily our black boys, to just know that they are more than a basketball player, that they are more than a football player, that when people ask me, do I want my son to play football professionally, I founded my organization LEAD because the acronym for LEAD is Leaders Embracing All Dreams. So if my son has an athletic dream, that's great. but I also need him to understand that he has gifts, he has talents outside of his sport, and for him to not think of solely being a professional athlete, but a professional owner, and giving him the capacity to think deeper in terms of ownership. And I strongly believe that that's what being an entrepreneur has given me. It's given me the opportunity to own all of my ideas, to own my time more, not fully, as we've been talking about, and that's something that we're working on, but, really just that legacy so people know that there's so much more than what they may be limited to.
Thank you. All right, guys, let's dive into a quick Q&A. Round of applause for our speakers. Thank you, guys. All right, Q&A. We'll dive into a quick Q&A. Anyone have any questions? Yes, sir.
My name is Dr. Rose. This question is towards Arron. I know you mentioned about college therapy. What advice would you give to someone who's looking to go into therapy if you're out for the first time? I think one of the challenges there is that sometimes looking for a therapist is like looking for a job, creating a resume. You kind of get turned off. I just probably done for myself. Every time I go to look for it, I'm like, man, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to just continue to work. So any advice on just kind of narrowing it down, finding a therapist, and just kind of figuring out.
Well, the therapist is asking more questions. What has you deterred from, like?
So, I've gone to therapy about 2 or 3 times. When I was at Brooklyn College as a student, they offered to students. And then after I graduated, I found a therapist at a spot somewhere around the area, like Benton or somewhere. And she wanted me transitioning to another company and carry on with her. That was kind of deterrent. Like, I'm not going to do this again because I had to open up to something new, right? And that's a challenge in itself too, right? Because you're basically vulnerable to somebody you don't know. And it's just from there. It's like, well, how do I do this? That's one of the challenges I see.
Right, so that is quite popular. So I'll tell you, when you find someone from a community mental health center, right, the turnaround rate is pretty high. So they may not be there for a long period of time and then you switch. As opposed to someone in private practice that you may see that on the website, they have their own setting, their own office. They're less likely to just stop seeing clients like that. So I definitely would encourage to, if it's something you want to pursue, to try it again. But I know it is difficult. I do say that therapy is like dating, right? And sometimes you do have to go back on Tinder and swipe, unfortunately, to find the perfect match. But when you do, it is a really nice experience for you. So I don't want you to be deterred. I encourage you to try again. I know it is a lot. Right, even when finding one with openings, I would say right now it is challenging finding a therapist with openings because post-pandemic or pre-pandemic, whatever we're in right now, it's still, people are going through a lot. So we are overwhelmed too. I personally have shut down seeing clients because it's I'm doing so many different other things and just that I'm at capacity. But there are, like I said, if you try Psychology Today, or Black Men, or Therapy for Black Men, they have Therapy for Black Men and this Therapy for Black Men, and there's Therapy for Black Girls also. There's therapists on there and they'll let you know their availability. So I would say be encouraged and don't give up.
I would like to know, how has your partnership with a Black woman as your partner, how has that increased your work and value within your work in terms of Black partner?
Well, I mean, my wife has been 100% supportive. Her creativity and her vision has helped me in the development of who the Black therapist is today. Just from her feedback, from her encouragement, from that don't look good to that looks good. Just supporting, like even me being here today, right? So she has the kids, right? So that support is everything, just as I support her in her visions and stuff. So, one thing we want to encourage each other's dreams, encourage what each other wants to do, and that's important. And we even talk about that in entrepreneurship in terms of a supportive partner and how valuable that is because you need that support and having a conversation like, listen, I want to go and start a business for myself, and having a conversation. Because before about a few years ago, I was working as an assistant program director, and they was calling me 3, 4 in the morning. It was a 24-hour ran facility, and because they were like, you're the assistant program director, I'm gonna intentionally call you at 3 in the morning, right? Even when my intention was to give them the tools to be able to handle certain situations, but it's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. So there was a strong one time where I was just like, no, I'm done with this. And I told my wife, I said, I can't do this no more, and I would like to try private practice full time. And she was 100% behind it, and that's valuable. So it's everything having that powerful black woman beside you.
Yeah, for me, my wife, shout out to my wife, she's in the front. I am a reflection of her, and she's a reflection of me in many ways, but it wasn't always that way. So my wife and I, we are closing in on 14, 15 years, and she was with me pre-NFL. She was with me pre-bachelor's degree. She was with me professional career. And 2 years ago, I went to her and I said, babe, I can no longer run a school, be the leader of this family, and build my passion in terms of building leaders and everything we do through Lead. And as a result of that, it was a difficult conversation, because there's a certain lifestyle that we live, and it's definitely far from the rich and the famous by design, right? We live well within our means. And I had a conversation with her, and I said, babe, never forget it. Called her about a year ago, and I said, babe, it's time for me to leave my job, but I'm talking to her in a way where it's like I'm assuming she's going to talk me out of it so that we can continue to go on the vacations we go on and continue to live and do the things that we do. And she was just like, nah, you need to do this. And it was honestly her being able to literally give me the confidence, because as a black man, knowing that my wife is going to be the breadwinner, she is going to be the one with the consistent income coming in, was a tough pill that I had to swallow. And it wasn't until we had that conversation and she literally said, no, I got you. But what I had to do to create that space was I had to come to her and say, babe, I'm honestly gonna need to lean on you, because what I'm about to embark on, it's going to position us to have 6-figure months and then 2K months, where we go from making $75,000 in September and then $5,000 in October. And I'm gonna need your help in managing now. Going to your wife and telling her you're gonna need her help when you have 2 kids who are clearly a priority in our lives, it challenges things. It makes things a bit more challenging, but my wife is a huge part of why I've been successful. She's a huge part of what she's my realist. Like people look at my life and like, oh man, Jay's doing 10 and 9, and she's just like, oh, that was cool. Like that was cool, And I'm like, dang, I thought that was pretty dope. Everybody tells me dope. And she just keeps me humble, she keeps me sharp, she keeps me on point, and she gives me what I need to hear rather than oftentimes what I want to hear. As a result, I like to believe I'm a high performer because of my wife.
Yes.
Any other questions?
I just have a statement. I appreciate the conversation and dialogue and the vulnerability, transparency. Thank you so much, brothers, for offering that. We don't have enough of that in our community, and that's one of the reasons why I came. To Arron, I applaud you and I commend you for being one of the very few black therapists in New York City and around. As a matter of fact, about 4 years ago, I have a counseling background. will take people based on my recommendation if necessary, but there's a limitation to what you guys can do. So I do applaud and appreciate that you would go into that kind of profession. To you, Jeremiah, I thank you for sharing your vulnerability and your ability to pivot in difficult situations, coming from a high status and high performing career and following the voice of God to pivot and lean on your wife. So I think it's important, although it's difficult because I'm not a male, as y'all can clearly see, for men to be able to do that, but that's what creates the power and the foundation, is knowing that you have someone who you can trust, who you can be vulnerable with, and who will understand that it's a season. Especially if you know God in any capacity, and I'm a born-again believer, there's seasons. There's the ebbs, there's the flow, there's the times, and there's the season. And you remind me of DeVal and Kadeem Ellis. I don't know if any of you know that, but they're social media people, and he went through something very similar. And so I thank you guys, and I thank you. Karen, your name? Brandon. Thank you for sharing as well, too. Thank you, guys.
So I want to thank you for that. So DeVal is my mentor. So DeVal is who trained me to go pro. Very similar. From Brooklyn, he played in the NFL. I remember sitting in DeVal and Kadeem's, it was Kadeem's mother's home, and he sat me down and he said, "What's next now?" And he poured into me. Now, just a quick story. When talking about my wife, there was a time, because of who they are, incredible people with an incredible story. I mean, these are, as y'all know, they are just incredible human beings and inspiring. Because I was in close proximity at a time in my life where I didn't know who I was, I went home and told my wife, without telling her, that I need you to be like Kadeem. And my wife looking at me saying, "No, I don't." And oftentimes when people see their life, which is incredible what they've built, and kudos to, my big bro, big sis, they're killing the game, and they're going to continue to pave the way. But I had to identify that and say, as much as I love him, as much as I admire him, I couldn't be around him too much because I wanted his lifestyle. But I didn't want the pain that came with his lifestyle. For every person that we look up to, such as this gentleman here, there's a level of success that he has, but there's pain attached to it. So
the reality is you're going to have your own pain.
Exactly, right. And I need to embrace my own pain and embrace what God has sent me and not try to be someone else's life or be something else. So shout out to DeVal, shout out to Kadeem, incredible people that I love and admire. So I just wanted to share that story because they are literally a huge part of, just how I'm matriculated as, a young man.
Thank you. Anyone else? How are we doing on time?
Any other questions?
One more question. Anyone?
I just want to echo the sentiment from him and others. Thank you. I'm an entrepreneur as well. And what you guys described, I go through every day. Before coming over here, I'm thinking about my business, right? What do I want to do? What am I going to post? Who am I going to talk to? It's this constant thing that you're in your head. And for me, I've been moved 26 times, been all around, been in New Jersey, Hoboken, parts of the city. I moved over to New York when I was younger, and I've never found, for me, a community or a place like Brooklyn where I think the diversity people here are accepting and are just really great. So I want to know for people like me, how do I embrace working with, I actually have something coming to fruition, but with black men and other entrepreneurs, right, to help keep that diversity and bring up Brooklyn as well. Because for me, that's really important. Because, I see like for the finance sector, you see a lot of white men, some women, but not the diversity that needs to come, I think, to lift Brooklyn and other stuff.
So, what was the question in terms of like how to create that?
Yeah, so like I know that I have a partnership that I'm announcing here soon with Black Brooklyn.
Awesome.
So you know them, right? But like, how do we lift up, the Brooklyn community, work together to put people in finance and other stuff so that Brooklyn is elevated? Because I think there's just so much talent.
Oh, 100%. And I would say this, you being here, right? So, like, kudos to you. I went to a predominantly white institution in college. I was always in a space where I was the minority, right? You're in a space, you chose to be in a space, you chose to maybe even feel uncomfortable, right? With being the only, a Caucasian person in the room. I believe that's where it starts, and I would even say next time bring, 5 people within your community to also be here with you. You know what I mean? So, because I feel like the spaces that, shout out to Monique and your team for creating this space. It starts with creating the space and then being a part of it. No one turns away at the door, right? No one said, nah, this is just for Black people. You cannot come in. You came in here. You're a part of the conversation. You're getting insight from Black men. And with that insight, that's data that you now have, that you can now take to your community and say, hey, like there's a need here. Like there are men who are struggling, and literally not just white men or Black men or Hispanic men, but entrepreneurial men are struggling with balance, right? So now we can connect after this and say, hey man, like I've also been challenged with this, and now it's a collaborative effort. A lot of the work that I do, I'm definitely looking forward to connecting and just figuring out ways in which I can add more value to the communities that I'm in through partnership. So it started when you made the decision to come here. And I believe that if you can continue to just be in these spaces and encourage others to want to be in these spaces as well, I think that that can really, really make a huge difference in creating that collaborative effort. Because I'll end on this. When I went to my college, it being a predominantly white institution, every room that I was in, they were having a conversation about what Black people needed without Black people being in the room. So it was more so like, oh, well, we believe that they need this so that they can, it's like, hey, maybe I could add some value, you know what I mean? So oftentimes the gap is created because people that aren't in our culture try to tell us what should happen in our culture without asking, you know what I mean? So you taking the opportunity to be here, man, kudos to you, and I admire that, about you, because that just shows people say they are inclusive, but they don't walk an inclusive life, and you're walking that, so
I just want to add that's we see a lot of fake conversation around diversity and inclusion, but it ain't real, right? So this is diversity and inclusion, right? You coming into these spaces and this is all resources right here. So if you connect with everybody's IG, people's always posting about events. So now you get an insight. Monique is having something else. You can see that she's having another event. You can pull up to that. And it's really about being, because Brooklyn always having, I'm a father and I'm an old man, so I don't be out in these streets. But there's a lot of stuff going on that you could be a part of, right? That you could pull up to after work mixers, all types of stuff. And you could be in those spaces. So just connecting and having conversation, and then you definitely connect with folks and start to build that community.
Thank you guys. All right, clap it up one more time for the panelists. Really quickly, if you guys want to continue the conversation, please tell us where we can find you online, things like that.
So my Instagram is the Black_therapist, the Black_therapist, and I post information and resources and things like that.
On LinkedIn, you can find me at Jeremiah Brown. On Instagram, you can also find me at the number 1, Jeremiah Brown on Instagram, and that's primarily where I spend most of my time on social media. So, yep.
Perfect. Thank you guys. And you guys can follow me on Instagram at Business by Brandon. On LinkedIn, I'm Brandon Madden, MBA. And if you want to go to my website, you can learn a little bit more about what we do. So it's inventyou.com. And there you have it, guys. So this is Black Men Who Lead. Clap it up once again. Thank you, guys.
I'm so proud of how this episode turned out. We really wanted to play around with something new, something fresh, something real and raw. So I hope you all enjoyed listening to today's episode. Jamor here, Chief of Growth and Innovation at Black to Business and the Creative Director for Black Men Who Lead. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into creating this, so there's a huge relief now that this first leg is complete, but the work's not done. We still have so much more in store, so stay tuned. A big thank you goes to Brandon, Jeremiah, and Arron. We couldn't have done it without you guys, and you really set the standard, so thank you again. Another shout out goes out to Carl J. Gray III, author of 7-Day Business Plan, How to Build Your Business Model in 7 Days. Carl is an award-winning business solutions architect, and he provided our panelists and guests with his book, and we want to extend that gratitude to our audience listening to today's episode. So, the first 10 listeners who write a review and respond to our link in the show notes will receive a copy of 7-Day Business Plan in the mail. Can you say free 99? Black Men Who Lead Part 2 will return in September in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., to a venue near you. More information to come. And if you would like to partner with us for our Black Men Who Lead series, please feel free to shoot me a message at connect@blacktobusiness.com. I would love to learn how we can work together. As always, thank you for listening. And to learn more about today's episode, visit www.blacktobusiness.com/153.